big news over the weekend, as we were just talking about, but this obviously applies to everybody here in America, and I'm going to tell you why, so stay in this. Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, they originally stemmed from the Muslim Brotherhood, if you remember that. They attacked Israel from the Gaza Strip, an area about the size of Manhattan. Okay, that's on the west bank of the Mediterranean. They did a full sea, air, and ground invasion. The amount of logistics involved in this is insane. This may be 5,000 miles away, but have you seen the streets of just a few of our major cities, particularly New York, this weekend? Here's a rally put on by the Democratic Socialists of America. Had a guy holding up a swastika flag cheering for Hamas. Maybe instead of Catholic churches, the FBI should be putting as many resources into monitoring Hamas sympathizers while they spit on New York City cops. That's happening. Maybe check out this woman right here. Happily living in America, by the way, an ally of Israel, taking full advantage of our First Amendment right, which she wouldn't have in Gaza, by the way, because in that culture, women's rights are quite limited. But just to show you how much further the stupid can go, again, here in America, where people are safe, ladies and gentlemen, I give you perhaps the greatest failure of the American education system. Never mind the fact that women can't march in the street at all over there, let alone in a bra, and in any Palestinian area, or with Hamas. These people in political control of the Gaza Strip are militants, and those are the people who just sent troops to invade Israel. And yet you have gay pride people here in America praising them, freeing them. As you can see here, in that area, they will literally execute you for being gay. I'm at a loss of how these people can be this foolish. But this is where we're at in America. And these are the same people that are ones that vote for representatives that are now crafting the foreign policy to get us to exactly this point. This is what you get. We've become so woke that people who advocate so hard for social justice will just support a regime that has no social justice. It's unbelievable. And as a result, many of our Democratic leaders have actually called for peace from Israel after they just got hit with thousands of rockets. Like Ilham Omar, of course, remember this one. She said, quote, "I condemn the horrific acts in Israel. We need to call for a de-escalation and a ceasefire. I will keep advocating for peace and justice throughout the Middle East." Really? How about condemning Hamas? Essentially, what she's saying is telling Israel not to respond. Right. Israel has like 1,000 people dead. That is the population equivalent of it being 30,000 Americans killed, just for perspective. Like an entire baseball stadium just got taken out here in America. Think about that. A terrorist group blows up the World Series game, kills everyone in the stadium, and some congresswoman tells you, forget about it. Be peaceful. Wrong, lady. I mean, personally, given the fact that I joined the military because of 9/11, I would want to turn the origin of those attacks into a parking lot, much like Israel does right now. Look, I don't think the reality of this is set in for a lot of people here in America. Do they think this is a game of some appeasement? Seriously, look at the Gaza Strip. It's right there. In 1993, Israel, through the peace agreement in the Oslo Accords, granted the Palestinian Authority limited governments of the area. Yeah, great. Look, it looked like peace had been made until the early 2000s when they went back on their word in Gaza, and they basically, through political and international pressure, Israel was essentially forced to pull all troops and most of the Jewish settlements out of the region. Since then, it's been the origin of most of the attacks on Israel, backed by someone else. Appeasement didn't work. And Joe Biden, who's been on the wrong side of nearly every foreign policy decision ever. Someone asked me before we went on air, what would happen if this happened on Trump's watch? I said it wouldn't have happened on Trump's watch. Almost immediately after taking office, Joe Biden restored the aid to Palestine that Trump had cut off. Then a month ago, Biden goes and frees up $6 billion to Iran. You know, it was for humanitarian aid. Right, sure. That's exactly what Iran, who from day one has dreamt of possessing a nuclear weapon. Yeah, that's what they'll do with it, humanitarian aid. How does Iran play into this? You know, they are the #1 state sponsor of terrorists in the world, by the way. They said they want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. Well, from the Wall Street Journal yesterday, quote, Iranian security officials helped plan Hamas's Saturday surprise attack on Israel and gave the green light for the assault at a meeting in Beirut last Monday, according to senior members of the Hamas and Hezbollah, another Iran-backed militant group, end quote. Great job, Joe Biden. You just gave him $6 billion. I knew you were a bad president, but this is such bad foreign policy. This is such a blunder in my mind. It almost appears intentional. This is the third global conflict that he's at least contributed to in not even one term as president. Oh, and speaking of contributions, don't forget this. Remember that $80 billion worth of stuff we left in Afghanistan? You know what was in that batch? About 3,500 M4s. Would you look at that? Any of those right there on that picture look familiar? Strikingly similar, especially considering most of that region uses the AK-47. I know, I was there. Look, that looks nothing like an M4. In that picture right there, in case you're not a gun guy, PEC-2 lasers, those are almost exclusively U.S. issued. The ACOG scope that's on the top of those guns right there, standard issue for most of the Army. Those aluminum stamped 30-round magazines look awful familiar to me, too. They laughed at Trump when he wanted to get out of Afghanistan. Look at this.
$9 million. We have $60-70 million plans. You mean you think it's cheaper to leave it there so they can have it than it is to fill it up with a half a tank of gas and fly it into Pakistan or fly it back to our country? You think, yes, sir, we think it's cheaper, sir. That's when I realized he was an idiot.
He tried to warn us. Are you mad at our government yet? Elections have consequences, folks. If you're not mad, consider this. Joe Biden, the same liberals who gave weapons to terrorists that are now being used against our allies, the same ones that applaud every time another country arms its citizens to defend itself abroad, they're the same ones, the same liberal politicians telling you and I here in America that we can't own those assault rifles. Here's why they just pound sand on that. If you pay attention to this, you know that our porous southern border we have? Oh, well, just 300 suspected terrorists were apprehended this year alone. Really? How many did we miss? We know these people hate America as much as they do Israel. Are we safe here? You don't think this applies to you? It does. You will never kill this ideology, folks. I spent 9 years in and out of those countries. They have been at war for thousands of years against anyone that doesn't agree with them. The best we can do is keep it at bay. We're going to fight it on their shores or ours. And I want reality to set in, folks. From a 2015 article in National Review, quote, extrapolating from the populations of polled countries alone shows that roughly 50 million people express sympathy for a terrorist army that burns prisoners alive, throws gay men from buildings, and beheads political opponents, end quote. 50 million worldwide. Just for comparison, America has a standing army of just over 1 million full-time battle-ready soldiers. So I'll leave you with this. 9/11 took 19 people to carry out. Maybe you should carry on, America, literally.